This happened just last Christmas. I was 35 and took a trip to my family's cabin in the snowy woods of Colorado. I needed to escape the city and reconnect with some family traditions after losing my job. I thought it would be a good way to clear my head. The cabin had been in my family for generations, filled with memories of laughter. But this time it felt different. There was a strange quiet that made me uneasy. I've never stopped thinking about what happened. It was one of those long, cold evenings. The wind howled outside, and I was rummaging through a dusty drawer in the bedroom, looking for old decorations. That's when I found it, a stack of old Christmas cards, hidden beneath some faded photographs. I pulled them out, and my heart sank. The handwriting looked familiar, but it was dated long before I was born. I started flipping through the cards, and they were addressed to someone named Lily. I felt a chill go down my spine. Each card contained these strange warnings about keeping the doors closed at night. I remembered feeling alone but not scared when I first arrived. I brushed it off, thinking it was just an old family tradition. But as the days passed, softer knocks echoed at the door in the middle of the night. At first I thought it was just my mind playing tricks. Maybe it was the wind or a branch against the porch. Then I heard faint laughter and children singing outside. I rushed to the door, heart racing, and pulled it open. The snow lay untouched, no footprints leading away. It made no sense. I glanced around, feeling more and more uneasy. That night I looked again at the cards. Some were cheerful, wishing Merry Christmas, while others had those ominous messages. They urged Lily to be careful and to not trust strangers. Who was she? The air in the cabin felt thick with tension. With Christmas approaching, my curiosity turned to dread. Every evening the knocking continued. I tried to ignore it, but it only grew louder. One time I crept toward the door, and I swear I could hear whispers. A child's voice, a soft giggle. Maybe I was losing my mind. I felt so isolated. I decided to learn more about Lily. I searched through old family albums but found nothing. Then one night it escalated. It was after the knocks, and I heard a voice calling my name. "Alex," someone said. The door rattled as if something was trying to get in. I looked out the window and saw a shadowy figure just standing there in the dark. Then it asked me, "Why don't you let me in?" I turned away, heart pounding. When I looked back, nobody was there. I wondered if I was being watched. I needed to know. Needed to find the truth. But every answer led to another question. I was left standing alone in that cabin, haunted by whispers. The last card I read seemed to echo in my mind, repeating its warnings. I gripped the cards tightly, desperate and terrified. I didn't sleep that night. I just waited, listening to the wind and the distant laughter that felt closer than ever. I spent the next day trying to distract myself. It was Christmas Eve, and I felt determined to fix the atmosphere. I lit the fireplace, hung the few decorations I'd found, and brewed hot cocoa. But everything felt forced. The late afternoon light turned dim, casting long shadows in the corners of the cabin. I thought about going for a walk, but the idea of being outside in that silence made my skin crawl. Instead, I settled on the couch and grabbed the cards again. Maybe I missed something. As I flipped through them, I tried to piece together who Lily was. The warm greetings almost seemed to mock me. I set the cards down and stared at the fireplace, lost in my thoughts. Just then, I felt compelled to look out the window. Snow had begun to fall again, blanketing the ground. But something caught my eye. There, in the middle of the yard, was a small figure. My heart stopped. It looked like a child, bundled in winter clothes. Had a kid wandered away from their family? I thought of the icy roads and the distance to the nearest house. I felt a mix of concern and dread as I hurried to the door. I pulled it open and called out, "Hey there, are you okay?" No response. The child stood still, facing the cabin, showing no signs of moving. I took a few cautious steps towards the figure when it suddenly turned its head. The face was obscured by a fluffy hood, but I could see two wide, bright eyes staring right at me. "Please let me in," it said, a sing-song voice that sent a chill down my spine. "I'm cold." Panic surged through me. I thought about the cards, the warnings to not trust strangers. My instincts screamed that I should close the door and block it out. But there was something so hauntingly childlike in the voice. I hesitated. "Where's your family?" I asked. My voice trembled just above a whisper. "They're gone," the child replied, shifting slightly toward me. "It's just me now." I frowned, unease flooding my senses. "You shouldn't be out here alone. You need to go home." But the child's expression didn't change. Instead, it took a step forward, revealing a glimmer of something in the fading light, a small, ornate locket hanging around its neck. My stomach dropped. I recognized it. I had seen a similar one in the family albums, in a photo with Lily. It all clicked into place, but that knowledge brought more questions than answers. I backed away, disoriented. "Please," the child repeated softer now. "Let me in, it's cold and dark out here." Suddenly I heard the knocking again, this time louder, coming from the other side of the cabin. I felt a jolt of fear race through me. I looked back at the child quickly, but it was gone, just like that. I slammed the door shut, my heart pounding against my chest. The knocking echoed, but it was now different, more frantic. I pressed my back against the door, panting. Who was at the door now? All I could think was that maybe I was too late. Whatever had been outside was now inside, and I wasn't ready. Something was in the shadows, watching me, and I realized, with a sudden rush of panic, that things were about to get much worse. I stood glued to the door as the knocking escalated. My heart raced and my palms grew clammy. Every rhythmic thud felt like it echoed through the entire cabin. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Deeply wrong. "Who is it?" I called, trying to sound brave, but my voice quivered. "Open up," came a voice, distorted and slightly muffled. It didn't sound like anyone I knew. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. "I need your help." "Help?" I replied, confusion mixing with fear. "Help with what?" Silence hung in the air for a moment, stretching uncomfortably. I took a shaky step back from the door, my mind racing. Should I call the police? But what would I even say? "Someone's at my cabin on Christmas Eve?" The knocking resumed, more desperate this time. "Please, I'm scared. I don't have anywhere else to go." That voice. It had a familiar tone. I squinted at the door's frame, half expecting to see the figure of the child reappearing. Instead, I saw only the snow, falling heavier now, turning the world outside into a blur of white. As I stumbled towards the window, I caught a flash of movement out of the corner of my eye. My breath hitched. Something flickered in the dim light of the cabin, just beside the fireplace. I turned swiftly, eyes landing on the stack of Christmas cards. One card had fallen to the floor face up. I recognized it instantly, the one with the smiling family, Lily's family. My heart sank when I saw the small locket again, this time drawn with pencil as part of the hand-drawn decorations. It was marked with Lily's name, written in a hurried scrawl. Before I could stop myself, I bent down to pick it up, feeling a strange pull toward it. That's when everything felt off. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to writhe, and an icy draft swept through the cabin. I shivered, now caught between the panic of being inside and the fear of what lurked outside. The knocking had stopped. The sudden stillness sent a jolt through me. Eerily quiet, I held the card tightly, my mind racing with questions. Was this some kind of twisted game? Who had been at my door? Then the front door creaked, slowly swinging open a crack. My eyes widened. I hadn't unlocked it. I hadn't opened it. My body froze. At that moment, I knew I was not alone anymore. "Help," the voice whispered again, carrying a haunting familiarity. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through the cabin and the flames in the fireplace sputtered. The lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. I felt a rush of adrenaline. Someone or something was entering. I took a cautious step back, clutching the card, the chilling reality of my surroundings crashing over me. I could either face whatever had come in or run outside into the storm where that child had vanished. But if I ran, who would I leave behind? The thought paralyzed me. As I fumbled for my phone, I caught a glimpse of a shadow moving toward me. I had to know what it was. That's when I turned back to see it. A figure emerged from the shadows, silhouetted against the dim light of the fireplace. My breath caught in my throat. It was a child. The same child I had seen only hours before. The icy grip of fear tightened around my chest as I struggled to comprehend the scene before me. Help. The child's voice was faint, a whisper lost in the stillness, and yet it held a weight that made my pulse race. Please. Desperation surged through me. Lily? I asked, my heart pounding so loudly it seemed to drown out the wind outside. Is that you? The figure took a cautious step forward, and I could see her more clearly now. Her clothes were damp and tangled, her hair matted against her pale face. But it was her eyes that struck me. The wide, terrified gaze that bore into mine felt ancient, far older than just a child's. I was startled by the sudden awareness that she seemed somehow not entirely here. Please, she repeated. They're looking for me. I can't go back. You have to help me. Who was she running from? What had happened to her? My mind raced, piecing together the brief moments leading up to this. I glanced at the open door, as if expecting something monstrous to come crashing through behind her. But nothing happened. Just the wind howled outside, filling the cabin with an otherworldly sound. What do you mean? Who is looking for you? I managed to ask, my voice barely more than a murmur, caught between panic and the need to understand. She paused, her gaze flickering toward the door. They don't want me to leave. They'll find me if I stay here. Each word she spoke filled me with a sense of urgency, but there was something curiously unsettling about the way she moved, almost gliding toward me as if she were simultaneously here and not here. A shiver swept through the cabin, stronger than before. I instinctively stepped back, feeling the chilly air wrap around me. I don't know if I should let you in, I said, the words trembling in the air. You were outside. I was outside because I was lost, she interrupted, her tone growing sharper. But I found you. I need your help to get away. Her eyes darted back to the door as if something were lurking outside. I hesitated. This wasn't how I had expected my Christmas Eve to go. The story I found in my own head was meshing with confusion and fear. What if I was about to do something I couldn't take back? I'll help you, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. But what was I getting myself into? Suddenly, the lights flickered again. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to creep closer as the cabin responded to the tension in the air. With a sudden realization, I grasped the card tight in my hand. Lily, I fumbled. Your name. It's not mine. She interrupted again, her voice sharp and unnerving. You shouldn't have found that. Her words hung in the air like a warning, ripping through the fragile veil of safety I'd begun to build. I felt a rush of dread. This wasn't about just helping a lost child anymore. I was being drawn into something far darker. That's when I heard the knocking again, soft but increasingly insistent, like a countdown to something terrible. The door. It was being knocked on from outside again, and this time it felt different. Please, she urged, a hint of panic threading through her voice. They're here. I had lost track of the danger that lurked beyond the threshold. All I felt was the urgency of her fear. I could run, but could I leave her behind? As I turned to face the door, my grip tightened on the locket, and I felt a rush of icy realization. Someone was coming inside. Something. The door rattled violently, and I jumped back, my heartbeat pounding in my ears like thunder. Lily, I whispered, dread pooling in my stomach. Did I really want to open that door? No, she cried, her voice escalating into a near wail. They'll catch me. Please don't let them in. My hands were shaking as I moved toward the door. I was overwhelmed with conflicting thoughts. Should I just run? Should I confront whatever, or whoever, was on the other side? Before I could think it through, the knocking turned into frantic banging. It echoed in my mind, mixing with the child's panicked pleas. "Stay back," I shouted, though I didn't know who I was talking to. My breath came out in sharp bursts. The pressure was building. It felt like the cabin was drawing itself close, as if it wanted to keep both us and whatever lurked outside captive. "Listen to her." The voice from the other side spoke suddenly. It was deep, commanding, sending chills down my spine. "You don't have to do this." I hesitated, questions crashing through my mind. Who was this man? Why did he want her back? "What do you want?" I yelled back, trying to sound braver than I felt. "There's been a mistake," he said, a hint of desperation lacing his tone. "Just let the girl come home. She's not safe with you." Lily's eyes widened, a flicker of fear illuminating her face. "No, they lied. They're lying." She grabbed my arm, her fingers cold against my skin. "I can't go back." I looked at her, the raw vulnerability in her eyes cutting through my fear. How could I trust her? But what about this man? Something felt twisted in all of this, like a cruel game being played out. The banging grew even louder, shaking the wood of the cabin. "Just let her go," the voice roared. "You have no idea what you're getting into." I felt the walls closing in around me, each thud against the door striking like a drum in my skull. Something was happening, a shift I could feel more than see. I needed to decide. "Lily, please," I said, my voice cracking. "I don't know what's happening. What do I do?" "Hide me," she breathed as the wild banging turned to scratching, clawing against the wood. "Hide me, we have to be quiet." My heart raced as I darted away from the door. The closest place I could think of was the small closet near the fireplace. The wind outside whipped through the cabin like a ghostly howl, and I motioned for her to follow me. We squeezed into the narrow space, darkness enveloping us. I held my breath, the reality of the moment crashing in. The scratches turned to tiny, desperate knocks, as if whatever was outside was becoming more determined. The cabin felt alive with tension, and then silence. Only the echoes of my heartbeat filled the air, pulsating with dread. I strained to hear anything but a thick stillness wrapped around us. Just when I thought maybe I'd imagined the sounds, I heard it, a low murmur. "Where are you?" The man's voice, now hushed and more menacing, slipped through the door. "I know you're in there. You can't hide forever." I held tighter to Lily, and I felt her trembling against me. Then everything went dark. I don't know how long we were in that closet. Time stretched, and every second felt like an eternity. The silence outside felt oppressive, wrapping around us tightly. I could hear my own breathing, and it was too loud. I leaned closer to Lily, hoping to offer her some comfort, but the fear radiating off her was palpable. Suddenly, I heard it. A creak. The door to the cabin was slowly turning. My heart dropped, and I bit my lip to stifle a gasp. Had he found a way in? The door opened just a crack, and a sliver of moonlight sliced through the dark. I peeked through our hidden space and saw the shadowy outline of a man stepping inside. He stood still for a moment, scanning the room. My stomach twisted as he seemed to sense something. "Lily, where are you?" he called, his voice chilling and calm. "You can't hide forever. Your little friend can't protect you." Lily pressed her face against my shoulder, her body trembling. I wanted to say something, to tell her it would be okay, but I knew it wouldn't. In an instant, he moved further into the cabin. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't come any closer to the closet. My mind raced, trying to plan our escape. Should I push him? Try to distract him somehow? But any move could alert him to our hiding spot. I wished I had more information. Who was this man, and why did he want Lily? What would he do if he found us? Questions flooded my mind, but there was no time for answers. Then a loud thump erupted from the other side of the room. The man turned sharply, and I felt the tension in the air shift. "Show yourself," he bellowed, his voice echoing as footsteps thudded against the wooden floor. In that moment, I noticed the door of the room behind him. It led to the back of the cabin where I remembered there was a small window that might be a way out. "Lily," I whispered low enough for only her to hear. "If he comes this way, we have to run for that door. Understand?" She nodded, her wide eyes indicating confusion mixing with fear. The noise was getting louder. He was checking the corners of the room, moving closer. I peered through the crack again. His back was now to us, giving me a moment's courage. Just as I was about to push the closet door open and make a break for it, I caught sight of something glinting in his hand. A small object, and then it dawned on me. A knife. My breath caught in my throat as he positioned it dangerously close to the cabin's furniture. "Where are you?" he demanded again, his voice thick with frustration. That's when I saw it. In the shadows of the cabin's corner, partially hidden, was a child's drawing taped to the wall. Lily's drawing. Crayon lines of a sun and a house. But at the center, it was a face. One that looked eerily like the man now standing in our cabin. Something deep inside me twisted as I realized the connection. I turned to Lily, ready to ask her about it, but the words wouldn't form. Something was very wrong, and I wanted to know but was too scared to ask. Before I could process it all, I heard a creaking sound behind the man. He turned, and panic shot through me. Someone else was in the cabin. I froze, heart racing, as the new sound echoed through the cabin. The man spun around, his eyes narrowing. "Who's there?" he barked, gripping the knife tighter. I could barely breathe. The figure that emerged from the shadows was smaller than the man, but it was another person, and the fear that filled the room was electrifying. A girl, maybe 8 or 9, stepped into the dim light. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes dirty and torn. When she met the man's gaze, she didn't show any fear at all. Instead, her expression was oddly calm. "Daddy," she said softly. The word hit me like a punch to the gut. "Where did you go? I told you to stay," he growled, taking a step toward her. His tone was sharp, that of a man who was losing control. I didn't know what to do. This was a new layer of horror. This wasn't just a man looking for Lily. It was a father searching for his daughter. But why was she hiding? "Why are you in here?" the girl asked, her voice innocent yet somehow cutting. She looked directly at our hiding spot, and I felt a prickle of dread. Had she sensed us? The man whipped around again, scanning the corners. "Show yourself," he shouted, eyes darting across the room. I leaned closer to Lily, whispering urgently, "We can't stay here. We have to move now." The tension in the air thickened as the girl took a step back. "You're scaring me," she said, her tone still surprisingly calm. "Please don't hurt them." That made it worse. What did she know? "Stay out of this, Emma. They have nothing to do with you," he snapped, tone laced with desperation. I glanced at Lily, who was now gripping my arm, terror etched on her face. We could either risk it and make a run for the door or sit tight, waiting for who knows what. Suddenly the light flickered, and the cabin was momentarily bathed in darkness. It was not a power failure. It was something more unsettling. I felt the air shift, charged with a sensation I couldn't quite place. When the light returned, a figure appeared behind the girl. Another child? No, a ghostly figure, translucent, yet frighteningly clear. It had the same features as the man, but its eyes were hollow, devoid of color or life. "Stop! This isn't how it was supposed to go!" the man yelled, his voice shaky now as he stumbled back. I couldn't take it anymore. It felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. Whatever was happening was spiraling out of control. The girl named Emma looked past her father at us, a flicker of understanding passing between her expression and mine. Then she turned to him. "You need to let them go," she insisted. The man's face twisted with rage, but before he could respond, he noticed something behind Emma. His expression changed to one of utter terror. He reached out, but the ghostly figure lunged forward. Just in that moment of chaos, I took Lily's hand. "Now," I hissed. We pushed the closet door open and bolted toward the back of the cabin, adrenaline surging. The noise of the confrontation behind us merged into a cacophony as we rushed. "Run," I shouted, and we burst through the door, aiming for the window. Outside, the chilly night air hit me, and for the first time, I felt a sense of urgency mixed with dread. I pushed Lily ahead of me, but the adrenaline was already fading. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. What did the girl know? Why did the man want Lily? And what was that figure? As we scrambled into the woods, the sounds of the cabin faded behind us, but the questions lingered. Little did I know, the nightmare was just beginning. I stumbled into the trees, frantically pulling Lily along. The forest loomed like a dark maze around us, and the cold air sliced through my lungs. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, urging me to move faster. "Where are we going?" Lily asked, her voice trembling, barely above a whisper. "I don't know," I admitted. "Just away." The weight of her fear pulled at me. I had to protect her, but I had no plan. After we pushed through the underbrush, I finally stopped to catch my breath. The woods were eerily silent, aside from the rustle of leaves and our ragged breaths. There were no birds, no nocturnal creatures. It was like the forest itself was holding its breath. "What just happened back there?" Lily breathed. I caught her eye, the worry evident on her face. I don't know. But that man, he seemed lost, like he wasn't himself. My thoughts raced, trying to piece together the surreal events. And that girl, Emma, she was different. What was going on? Lily shook her head, her eyes wide. "He wanted to hurt us, I saw it in his eyes." Before I could respond, I heard a noise behind us, branches snapping, footsteps creeping closer. My heart plummeted. "We need to move." We plunged deeper into the trees, every shadow now a possible threat. My instincts screamed at me to keep going, but as we navigated through the dense thicket, a strange sensation washed over me. It was familiar, yet unsettling. Something felt wrong with this forest. It was wrong, as if it was watching us. Panic began to bubble over in my chest. I glanced at Lily. "Stay close," we pressed on, pushing past thick ferns and gnarled roots. That's when I saw it. A flicker of light ahead, a soft glow cutting through the darkness. Hope sparked within me. "Look," I pointed, and Lily followed my gaze. As we approached, I could see it was a clearing. In the center was a small, dilapidated cabin, another one. Its windows were dark, but the glimmer of light danced just beyond the door. Maybe we could find help, or at least something to defend ourselves. Just as we neared the cabin, the footsteps returned, sounding closer. I turned and caught a flash of movement in the shadows, a figure lurking just outside our sight. "Run!" I shouted again, this time fueled by a primal fear that chased me like a wild animal. We reached the cabin door and I yanked it open. It squeaked ominously, almost as if it were protesting against our entry. The warmth enveloped us like a wool blanket, but I knew it wouldn't last. Inside the room was dim, filled with dusty furniture draped in white sheets. We stepped over a threshold that felt like crossing into another world. But before I could even assess our surroundings, a crash echoed behind us. Someone was at the door. I spun around, heart pounding. A silhouette loomed against the dim light, the figure stepping into the cabin. It was him, the man from the other cabin. "Where did you go?" he growled, voice low and menacing. I turned back to look at Lily, who was frozen beside me, terror etched on her face. This couldn't be happening. Why was he still following us? What did he want? I backed away slowly, every instinct screaming to run, but I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I had to save Lily. Then, in the midst of our dread, another voice filled the room, a soft, childlike giggle that rang against the walls. Emma's voice. "Daddy, stop!" she called, and suddenly the atmosphere shifted. I wasn't sure what was about to happen, but the night had just taken another turn. The air turned thick with tension. The man's expression altered slightly, confusion flickering across his features. "Emma?" His voice was softer now, almost pained. I glanced at Lily, who seemed as bewildered as I felt. "Is that his daughter?" I whispered. I didn't know what to think anymore. We were standing at the crossroads of fear and a new, unsettling reality. Daddy, please. Emma's voice echoed again, but this time it sounded closer. I had a horrible feeling that she wasn't just inside the cabin, but somewhere very near. The man stepped further into the cabin, glancing around as if searching for her. My heart raced. This was our chance. I motioned for Lily to follow me, inching toward a window in the back. Let's get out while he's distracted, I murmured, taking a step backward. But then a faint rustle reached my ears, like someone was moving outside the cabin. Are there more of them? Lily gasped, eyes wide. I started, but then the door swung shut behind the man, like it had a mind of its own. The sound resonated like a death knell, and we were instantly swallowed by darkness. Where's the light? I muttered, panic creeping in again. I rushed to the window, desperately looking for an escape. Outside, the forest loomed like a wall of shadows. Don't leave me, Lily whispered, gripping my arm. I turned back to her, the primal fear fueling me once more. Suddenly, a shrill scream pierced the air. It was Emma. A rush of adrenaline surged through me. I didn't know what was happening, but I couldn't stand by any longer. Stay here, I whispered to Lily. I turned toward the door, heart racing at the thought of what lay outside. As I stepped through the doorway, everything froze. The forest was no longer silent. Muted whispers surrounded me, flickering like candlelight in the darkness. I squinted into the woods but saw nothing. The tall trees swayed, shadows shifting like they had their own life. Emma, the man shouted, his voice filled with a new desperation. Where are you? I knew I had to act fast. What if she was hurt? What if she was gone? I didn't trust him, but I couldn't just leave a child behind. Lily, I called softly, wishing she would come outside, but I also feared what we might find. A flicker of movement caught my eye, a silhouette darting between the trees. My heart raced. Emma, I shouted, instinctively moving toward it. But as I stepped forward, a figure emerged from the shadows. A small child in a white dress, her hair wild as it framed her thin face. Hello, she said, voice sweet yet haunting. Are you here to help me? My stomach dropped. Was this a trick? A game? I glanced back at the cabin and felt a heavy knot of dread. Before I could think, I heard rapid footsteps behind me. The man was closing in. Emma! He barked again, a mix of anger and fear, his eyes wild as they landed on me. Run! I shouted, feeling the pull of terror and the need to protect. Suddenly the child's smile faded, as if she sensed the shift in the air. Her eyes widened and she stepped back, vanishing into the trees. The whispers returned, creeping closer as I backed away from the man. Where did she go? He whispered, almost to himself, as if the forest had swallowed her whole. But before I could answer, an even deeper voice cut through the night. You shouldn't have come here. My heart sank. Who was that? The night was alive with foreboding now, and every instinct screamed at me to flee. But where was Lily? I turned back toward the cabin, dread rushing through me like a dark wave. I had a feeling that whatever was happening was just the beginning. As I rushed back towards the cabin, I felt the weight of the forest pressing down on me. Every twisted branch and whispered breeze seemed laced with a warning, urging me to turn back. But I couldn't leave Lily. She was still inside, and the urgency of her safety overwhelmed my fear. I yanked the cabin door open and the chaos came rushing back into focus. The man was inside, pacing now, his expression torn between anger and desperation. Where is she? His voice thundered, reverberating off the walls. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Lily, I called out, my voice shaking. Are you here? Get out, he roared. But I ignored him, searching the shadowy corners of the cabin. The atmosphere was thick, as if the walls themselves held their breath in anticipation. I needed to find Lily, to ensure she was safe from whatever was happening. Just then I spotted her, huddled at the edge of the room, her eyes wide with terror, hidden behind a curtain. Relief washed over me, mixing with the dread that filled the air. I motioned for her to come closer. "Lily, I'm here. We need to go, now." But as she started to move, the man whipped around and blocked her path. "You don't understand," he shouted. "She's not safe here. You're putting her in danger." My heart raced as I stepped between them, shielding Lily from his frantic gaze. "You don't get to decide what's best for her. You need to tell me what's going on." He hesitated, fury warring with a flicker of something softer underneath. Fear, perhaps. "If she stays here, she'll become another one of them." "Who are they?" I pressed, refusing to let the gravity of the situation pull me down into despair. He took a deep breath, his shoulders slumping. "They're lost souls. Children who never found their way home. My daughter is one of them. She ran, and now she's mixed up in this." He gestured toward the shadows, where the flickering light began to twist into forms, figures emerging from darkness, their eyes glinting with hollow hunger. I felt my stomach turn. "Emma," I whispered, the name barely escaping my lips. "Yes," he shouted, desperation thrumming in his voice. "And if we don't get her back, she'll take Lily too. They want her." The shadows seemed to move closer, whispering, pleading, and with each breath the temperature plummeted. Fear crept in, clawing at my rational mind. At that moment, Lily took my hand, squeezing tightly. "I don't want to stay, Alex, please." Her voice trembled with both fear and the strength of a child who knew danger when she saw it. "No!" the man shouted again, drawing my attention back to him. "Please, you have to help me find her. We have to keep her close, or it's too late." A sudden crash echoed outside, and I turned to see the glowing outline of a girl darting between the trees beyond the cabin's door. "Emma!" he screamed, lunging toward the opening. "Wait!" I called out, grasping his shoulder. "You don't know what's out there. If they want to take her, she could be in danger." He faltered, eyes locked on the space where Emma had vanished. The shadows shifted again, pulling at my legs, trying to drag me into their eerie embrace. "Alex, we need to go," Lily urged, tugging on my sleeve, her small body trembling beside me. With one eye on the man and the other on the shadows swirling around us, I made a decision. We can't stay here. We have to find Emma, but we cannot let those things take her. "Then what do we do?" he asked, desperate and pliable now, as if something deeper within him realized that trust was our only path forward. I took a deep breath. "We can head into the woods, it's our only chance. If we can find a way to the clearing, maybe we can reach her before it's too late." Nods exchanged in uncertainty, my heart heavy with the knowledge that we were stepping into the unknown. As we moved toward the door, the shadows pressed tightly behind us, whispering secrets that brushed against my skin, urging me to listen. We burst out into the swirling night, the darkness tangible around us. In that moment I felt both terrified and resolute. Together we raced toward the forest, each step echoing with the urgency of our collective fears. Caught between the supernatural and the very real dangers of a father, desperate to save his daughter. The sound of laughter echoed through the trees, children's laughter, and I felt a chill run down my spine. But something inside me, that flickering flame of hope and protection, urged me onward. "Stay close," I called back to Lily, whose hand felt so tiny in mine. We navigated through the inky shadows of the woods, the commit to the unknown driving us forward. I couldn't shake the questions lingering in my mind. What were we really racing toward? What presence haunted that clearing? And would we find Emma before it was too late? With every breath and every step, I felt the boundaries of reality blurring, leaving behind shards of rationality and stepping into a realm where nothing was ever truly as it seemed.